No walls. No bed. No walls. No walls. No bed. No walls.
You have to put yourself into the kids' shoe, and then you can understand them.
People should treat them equally, and when they first get here, they should treat it good and not bad.
It doesn't matter who that person, where is he's coming, or what is the background for him. Education is for everyone.
Think for a moment. What do you know about ELL education?
Absolutely nothing. I don't know a thing about ELL education.
I never heard of it.
I don't know anything about ELL education.
I have no idea what ELL education is.
Chances are, if you're a student or a teacher in Vermont, you'd have a similar answer to that question. So we asked an expert, Shauna Shapiro, professor of writing and linguistics at Middlebury College.
An ELL, or English Language Learner student, is a student whose primary language spoken at home is not English, and who is still developing their proficiency in English, both their conversational, or what we call social English, as well as their academic English.
So, do ELL students go to Vermont schools, and are there programs to teach them?
I'm actually not aware of anyone at my school that's an English language learner.
I honestly don't know if there's a program, so I guess if there wasn't one, then there should be.
There's probably one, it's probably mandatory, but I have never heard of one. I've never seen it around.
The truth is, even some of the smallest schools across Vermont have ELL programs that the other students just don't know about. Take Addison Central School District, which is comprised of 9 small schools, including Middlebury Union High School and Middle School. The district is home to a total of 33 ELL students with a range of backgrounds and 13 different native languages. Yet the district only employs 2 ELL teachers to teach all of them. This situation isn't unique among small Vermont schools either. So how do they make it work?
So I have 14 students that I meet with from kindergarten through 8th grade, and they come and sometimes here in the ELL room and work with me, or sometimes I'm in their classroom. It just depends on the student and their needs. We work on various things, but really focus on, their speaking and listening and reading and writing skills, but also help them through their content.
You can do a few things. You can do a pull-out model of instruction, which is where students are taken out of the mainstream class and work with an English language learner teacher on things like reading, sometimes vocabulary, sometimes speaking if a student's been hesitant to speak. There's also the other end of things, which is called push-in, which is where a teacher might be working in the classroom with the mainstream teacher, supporting instruction either by helping a small group of students, helping a student one-on-one, or even co-teaching with the other teacher. And so these are all models that are used to some extent in Winooski and Burlington, which are the 2 districts that have the highest numbers of English learners in Vermont. In the rest of the places, what usually happens is a smaller group pull-out where a teacher may only see students for, say, a half an hour twice a week, maybe, because they're spread fairly thin. And that's one of the challenges in Vermont. When you have a smaller number of students, you would think, oh, well, that gives the teacher more opportunity to work with those students, but it's actually the reverse. If you don't have a critical mass of students, you may not have the funding to pay for a full-time teacher. So you might have someone who's only at your school 1 day a week and who's trying to get in as much time as they can with a bunch of students who are at very different levels in their English language proficiency, as well as their age and grade level in school.
Some Vermont schools are able to effectively utilize these teaching styles to fully serve their ELL students. Take Winooski and Burlington, which have the highest incidence ELL programs in the state. In the 2015-2016 school year, ELL students made up nearly 15% of the student population in the Burlington School District and 40% in the Winooski District.
There's a real desire to meet the needs of the students in Burlington, in both school districts.
Just ask the students, and they'll tell you what we're already getting right.
So what I like is the people. They are so friendly. They just so, well, how to say, good.
It is really good to have a community. Like when you're new to the new to the city or the country, like you have someone who's helping you out and everything.
Like yeah, everyone wants to help us so that we can learn and also be a part of Burlington High School community.
We're pretty much the most diverse school in the state, and it's really important to us as a community because we feel like we have the whole world basically right here in this building, and it's really nice for us to interact with other people, whereas if we were in a school without that opportunity, we'd be pretty closed-minded to different people and what their lives are like, and we get to really see the different cultures in the school.
But especially in Vermont, not every school has such a diverse and welcoming community, and the students know it.
Yeah, it's definitely not diverse. It's kind of the opposite of diverse.
That's not good.
Group is not.
That's not good.
And Rebecca Holcomb, Vermont's Secretary of Education, reaffirmed what the students were saying.
It was visible. You know, some students may grow up in Vermont and never see anyone from a different culture and may not even know that there are a lot of kids in Vermont who don't speak English as a first language. So, you know, I don't think it's a universal experience in Vermont. It's something that some communities are deeply immersed in, have developed a tremendous amount of expertise and have really spent a lot of time thinking about. And then there are other communities where it just never even is on their radar.
So what obstacles did the teachers in these smaller school districts face?
Just not having enough time, because not only do we work with the students here in the school, we meet with their families and try to support them however we can, especially the families that are new to the country and just need support, trying to figure things out in the community.
My parents are still thinking we should use more notebooks than technology. It's kind of hard for them here. So they see lots of emails and then they don't know what to do.
They say, I don't know, my child, I feel like he's not able to write a letter since he's in 5th and 6th grade. He talks in English but not able to write. And teacher says like he's good.
We are really lucky that we have a physical space that we can take the kids to. We have an actual classroom. I think that if we only had 4 or 5 kids, we'd probably be in the hallway or the corner of the library. I've met a lot of ELL teachers that work out of their car. Like, we have the facilities, which is really nice.
Where it's actually most challenging to serve English language learners is when a child is plopped in the middle of nowhere and they're the only English language learner for 50 miles, because it may be the only child who is learning English that that school has ever dealt with. There actually is a tremendous amount of knowledge about how you build English language facility in children who are English language learners. They actually do need special support and special instruction, but that school may not have the capacity on staff currently, and it may be difficult to bring in if you're only one child in a school of 100.
Teachers are really pressed for time constantly. They're not only pressed for time, but there's so many expectations of teachers as they try to address the school district curriculum, as they try to address the very many tasks that they're asked to do day in and day out. It really is difficult and challenging. And yet through it all, I think what's been so amazing is finding teachers who are just utterly dedicated to their students.
Many of the things that actually help ELLs are actually just good teaching. We forget that, you know, and I think it's easy if everybody speaks English and everyone's well educated. It's easy to take advantage of that and not be as intentional about what you're doing as a teacher to make sure everyone's supported. But one of the things, for example, that is so important is very explicit instruction in academic language. So the language of school is actually different from the language of home. And you know, you can think of examples, and you actually need to teach that vocabulary very explicitly because it's part of the whole language that students who are ELLs learn. If you don't, they may be sitting in a classroom and not understanding what's going on.
But teachers can only do so much with limited time, space, and resources. They need help from administrators and lawmakers. Here are some relatively simple strides that Vermont can make towards supporting all teachers who work with ELL students and making education more equitable for all.
Professional development, I think that's extremely important for teachers and offering that to teachers. You know, we have teachers who are trained to work with English learners, and they're referred to as ELL teachers. And so that means that they've been trained as pre-service teachers, they sought a specific license. But general education teachers, teachers who teach math, science, who work in the so-called mainstream classrooms also work with ELL students. And I think those teachers, just as much as ELL teachers, also need some kind of training, professional development, which is extremely important. Because we have to remember that after ELL students, when they transition out of these classrooms and they've gained a level of English so that they can now take English-only classes, once they transition out, they still need some kind of a support. You know, it just doesn't end right there. And I think some general education teachers that we have interviewed want to know.
I'm co-teaching an English or reading and writing class with a classroom teacher right now. So we have a mixture of ELL and native English speaking students, and everybody's benefiting from that. Mm-hmm. So it's what's good for ELL kids is good for all kids.
We know that there are changes we can make to curricula to be more culturally responsive. Kids are inspired when they can see themselves. And if every book you read doesn't talk about children like yourself, it's harder to see yourself in that curriculum. If it doesn't acknowledge the contributions of people with whom you identify in history, it's harder to feel yourself being part of that journey. And we also know that frankly, in chaotic times, there may be ways we need to, work a little harder to be supportive of students.
And it's true, these are chaotic times for English language learners across the nation. While not all ELL students are also new Americans, many do have immigrant or refugee backgrounds. The current national administration is threatening these groups, which only heightens the universal challenge of coming to live in a new country.
It was really hard. Like, I started 7th grade, and like the class I started, I knew nobody. There was no one in my language who was there. So it was really, really hard for me for my first year.
Sometimes I have no idea to understand what the teacher said, and I have no idea to understand what they're doing sometimes.
It's kind of different that when you meet with immigrants that you kind of feel like connected and you kind of talk with them, and the person who you hear is kind of difficult. I don't know if difficult is the right word, but it's not different. It's not the same. Like, it doesn't feel like you're connected, and I don't know, like, it's just hard to make a conversation with them, since like at the beginning we didn't really understand, like, because they were talking really fast, and it's not our language, and it's just difficult. Yeah.
So perhaps the most powerful change is also the most personal one. As a student, a teacher, or any member of a community, you have the ability to make that community stronger, more welcoming, and more open-minded. All it takes is finding the words.
To see our symbol and support us, and also spread love, peace. Yeah.
I'm a refugee too, like immigrant, just like others. So like I just want to like have a better life here, and get focused on my education.
I just want to say thank God for helping me to come here, and complete my dream. Thank you.
No wolf.